Okay, S2, your work for this week, we are going to be looking at weapons and warfare in World War One. Now, our learning intention for this week is to understand what weapons were used during World War One. Our success criteria is firstly to identify and describe the different weapons that were used in World War One, to explain if each weapon would be better for defending or attacking, and evaluate, in your opinion, what you think was the most and least effective weapon used in World War One. Now, what weapons were actually used during World War One? Traditional weapons such as daggers, bayonets, and rifles were all used. However, World War One saw many new weapons being used for the very first time during war, such as gas, machine guns, and tanks. And the picture you see in the background there is soldiers using a machine gun in World War One. The picture on the board on your slideshow shows soldiers who have suffered a gas attack. There's another picture of soldiers using a machine gun. There's a grenade there as well. Now, your first activity, you're going to investigate the weapons used during World War One, and this will help you to achieve our first success criteria, which is to identify and describe the different weapons used in World War One. You're going to examine the weapons card document, which is attached in the file as well, and if you can, watch the YouTube clips from historian Dan Snow. That's a picture of Dan Snow there, and that is links to some of the YouTube clips there on the different weapons in World War One. You're then going to complete the table of weapons describing the key facts of each weapon. There's an example on the next slide of this. Make sure you upload this via the assignment tab once you have finished your table. And you have a challenge below your table on the document where you're asked what type of battle would each weapon be good for. This is just an example here which is filled out for you in the document on the files tab. So you have the weapon, which is a machine gun. Description, so you've got its weight, which is 27 kilograms and is 1 metre in length. Range, so that's how far it can shoot, is 2,000 metres. How many could it kill? So the machine gun could shoot anything from 450 to 600 rounds per minute, so that meant it could kill a lot of people. And the effectiveness out of 10, so how good a weapon you think it is out of 10. It says here 9.5 out of 10 because, and try and give a reason. If you want to change that rating, if you disagree with 9.5 out of 10, you can obviously change that and make sure you give a reason for that. So that's activity 1. Activity 2, once you've completed activity 1, activity 2 is which weapon would you choose and why? Now you need to decide which weapons you would use in each battle and why. And again, write your answers on the sheet you've been given under the files tab and upload this via the assignments tab. So the 3 battles that you have to consider, all battles from World War One. So battle number 1 is the Battle of the Somme. General Douglas Haig has ordered a massive attack on the German lines. The Germans are in their trenches and some have bunkers to shelter him. You have battle number 2, which is the Battle of Verdun. The German attack on Verdun on February 21st, 1916 was a complete surprise to the French. German heavy guns quickly reduced the French trench system into isolated pieces, forcing soldiers to fight in small groups. And then you have battle number 3, which is the Battle of Ypres. On June the 7th, 1917, British forces set off giant mines under German lines, causing great damage. You're in charge of the British troops. You have been told to advance and capture the German lines. So this is 3 battles you need to consider. There's more information that you need to think about for each battle. So you've got information there for Battle of the Somme, for Battle of Verdun, and for the Battle of Ypres. So this is all on your document, so you need to read this over and you need to decide in each battle which weapon or weapons would you use and why. So that is activity 2, and that will help you to achieve the second success criteria, which is to explain if each weapon would be better for defending or attacking, thinking about what you're being asked to do in each battle. That there is just a picture of heavy artillery guns that were used to fire shells onto enemy trenches. So your final activity is which weapon won the First World War. So for activity 3, you're being asked to evaluate which weapon you think was the most important one in World War One, and you need to give a reason for your answer. So when you're answering this, you need to be saying it could be argued that, and you pick a weapon, was the most effective weapon used, and give a reason for your answer, so explain it, so this is because. And then you need to decide which weapon was the least effective, so it could be argued that, and you pick a weapon, was the least effective weapon used, and then you need to give a reason for your answer here as well. And this again will help you to achieve the last aim for today, which is evaluate the most and least effective weapon used in World War One. Once you have completed all 3 activities, which should last you next week, you then are being asked just to reflect on what you have learned about weapons in World War One. So, think about the different weapons and different battles that you've learned about, skills that you've worked on, so evaluating different weapons, judging which weapons are maybe the best, the worst, when to use them, decision making, you've again decided when you're going to use certain weapons, what weapon you feel is best and worst. And overall, what we'd like you to think about is how could you use what you've learned to change the world. So think about what you've learned in terms of weapons. How could you use it to change the world in any way? So it could be a local, national or global issue that you feel could be changed just based on what you've learned today a wee bit about weapons.